the most dangerous mistake a powerful nation can make is believing it already knows the future. 26 centuries ago, a king named Croesus asked the Oracle of Delphi if he should go to war against Persia. The oracle said, "If you attack, a great empire will fall." Croesus thought that meant Persia. He went to war. A great empire did fall, just not the one he expected. Today, the world once again watches a war with modern-day Persia, Iran, unfolding. And the historical story of this King Croesus leaves us with the question, when powerful nations go to war, how certain are they about which empire will pay the price? Welcome back to Sometimes and Forever with me, Denny Downing. Today we are talking about the war in Iran, but we are examining the unfolding events through the lens of an old but very similar true story. We are examining the similarities and trying to see what lessons we can learn, if any. So it's week 4 of the Israel-US-Iran war, and we're quite possibly heading into week 5 of this conflict. We don't see an off-ramp in the near future. The stated goal by the United States is to bring forth regime change in the country, end the Iranian nuclear weapons program, and of course, free the people of Iran from an oppressive government. But everyone is moving away from that reason, especially after Secretary of State Marco Rubio came out and said the US attacked Iran because Israel was going to attack first. Nevertheless, the strikes from the US and Israel against Iran have been really heavy, and the destruction so far has been extensive. Hundreds of people in Iran have died, including over 200 children, over 100 of which died all at once in the first waves of attack. That is really heartbreaking. Then the supreme leader, 86-year-old Ali Khamenei, the Ayatollah of Iran, was killed by US strikes. This, we can all agree, was a blow to the Iranian regime. But Iran has been fighting back, and they are fighting really hard. I mean, to be honest, the Iranian response is unlike anything that anyone expected. Or maybe I should say it's unlike anything that the US expected. And so this reminded me of this ancient story about a king in the 6th century BC, this was before Christ, who went up against a rising superpower. He was bolstered by a prophecy he received which he thought favored him. Unfortunately, his offensive actions led to his own downfall. This king, as we said before, his name was Croesus. He was not Greek, though he lived among the Greek cities of Asia Minor. He was actually the king of Lydia, and he was wealthy, fabulously wealthy. He was so wealthy that even today, whenever we want to emphasize just how rich someone is, we say as rich as Croesus. But you know, wealth can create something truly dangerous. It can create a feeling of invincibility and arrogant certainty in one's own abilities. So Croesus, this rich king over Lydia, realized that there was a new power, Persia, rising in the east. Persia was ruled by Cyrus the Great, and yes, we all know that ancient Persia is modern-day Iran. Now, the fabulously wealthy Croesus began to grow uneasy because Persia was expanding, it was consolidating its power, and most frighteningly of all, it was moving west. So Croesus did what powerful men often do when they fear losing dominance. He decided he wanted to go to war against this new power. But before going out to confront Persia, he wanted to be certain he would win. To gain this certainty, he sent emissaries to the Oracle of Delphi, the most sacred prophetic voice in the ancient world. He asked the question every leader asks before going into battle: should I attack? Will I win? The oracle sent the following reply: if you cross the Halys River, you will destroy a great empire. It sounds like victory, doesn't it? It really sounded like victory would be his once Croesus crossed the river. So he marched to meet Persia in battle. He crossed the river and he destroyed a great empire. That empire was his own. Cyrus defeated him. Croesus' wealth, his confidence, his kingdom, everything fell. If we look back at what the oracle said, it was true. He had simply misunderstood who it was about. And now here we are once again, centuries later. Another superpower, a fabulously wealthy one, is going up against another Persia, modern-day Iran. Here again we are seeing leaders consulting and interpreting warnings and predictions through the lens of modern wartime intelligence. This is not really an oracle, but something similar. Much like the ancient King Croesus, who believed attacking Cyrus the Great would secure his kingdom after consulting the Oracle of Delphi, modern policymakers are acting on predictions about future dangers. Only there are some, such as Joe Kent, who see no threat from Iran at this time. More on Mr. Kent in a little bit. But the interesting thing is that a few weeks before the war, the US embarked on negotiations with Iran. The talks, by some reports, were going well, but the US and Israel decided to attack Iran in the middle of the negotiations. It makes you think that they were going to attack Iran anyway. No matter what Iran said during the talks, there was going to be a fight. We all know that the US's army is mighty and full of power, and so the US, it seems, thought they would bomb the hell out of Iran. Iran would wave the white flag, and America would beat its chest and say, "See, no one can test us." The challenge, though, is that the events of a war rarely unfold exactly as the leaders who initiate it expect they would. Right now, Iran is not waving a white flag. In fact, they are now in a position where, if the war was to end, they could demand reparations. This story about the 6th century wealthy Croesus of Lydia forces us to ask, when powerful nations move toward confrontation, are they always certain which empire will fall? Or do they, like Croesus, believe what they want to believe? Today, our oracles are not priestesses inhaling sacred fumes, chanting, or doing whatever oracles did back then. Today, our oracles are intelligence briefings and satellite imagery. They're political advisors and, of course, the media narratives. But intelligence is not prophecy. This war with Iran is being fought mainly from the air at this point, at least for now, because plans are afoot by the US to send Navy SEALs to Iran, or at least so we're hearing. Maybe it's going to be 2,000, maybe a little over 5,000. We're not sure. The number isn't precisely known right now. And Iran is saying, bring it on. Send all you have. We are ready for them. This is a big showdown. And speaking of showdowns, ever so often, the US sends out these footages of their bombs destroying places in Iran. I don't know if you've seen them, but I've seen them. It comes out pretty often in the media. What we're seeing are some black and white images of places being blown to bits by the US. These videos remind me of a video game. You know, when two young boys sit down and they play against each other in these games and they blow things up, these make-believe targets. That's how it looks to me. And it makes me think how easy it is to not think of the people of Iran as human beings and just send a missile from the comfort of somewhere far away. You know, you can just press a button and blow stuff up and you kill the enemy. And it's all just a game. It all just seems like a game. I don't know if you feel that way, or if you've seen these images, and if you see them, if you have that same thought. But that's what crossed my mind when I saw them. Anyway, I digress. Let's go back to Croesus for a little bit, because he believed he was acting rationally. He even tested the oracle beforehand to ensure her reliability. Here was a test he gave. He told his messengers to ask her to tell him what exactly he was doing on a specific day. If she could answer correctly, then he knew he could trust her predictions. And she was able to answer him correctly. So we can say that Croesus did do his due diligence. But still he misread the most important sentence of his life. He heard what he wanted to hear. And that, I believe, is the danger of power. You see, war intelligence is merely an interpretation of the information presented before those in command. and the interpretation they receive is often shaped by fear, pride, domestic politics, economic pressures, and ideology. The danger faced by the powerful is that they begin to assume the future will always bend toward them. Now, let's be very clear. Things are not like they were in times long ago. The United States is not ancient Lydia, and modern-day Iran is not exactly ancient Persia. And we can discuss why in a future episode, but the point I want to make here is this. Our modern-day war is far removed from what happened centuries ago. The stakes of this war involve not just the end of any empire, but possibly the end of humanity. We're talking about nuclear capabilities here, and we all know that the US has nuclear capabilities, and even though Israel hasn't said that they have it, most people believe that they do have it. So we're looking at a very big catastrophe, and when people are cornered and their pride is taking a beating, you don't know what they will do. This war also brings into focus regional instability, because the Middle East, we can all agree, is not what it used to be even a few short weeks ago. We're all facing global oil shortages. It's a reality, and it's probably going to get much, much worse. And honestly, I don't know what little countries like Jamaica are going to do if things get really bad. In some countries, we are already seeing that the governments are rationing the oil supply, and some persons are being asked to stay at home because there isn't enough oil for persons to go out. Some rich countries have released their oil reserves to keep oil prices steady, but how long will that last? Food shortages are next, and believe it or not, we are looking at an economic collapse. So far, the European nations, for the most part, have said that they're not willing to back the US in this conflict. But how long will that resolve last? Until they run out of oil completely? Or will they break before? Already we see the UK allowing the US to use their bases to launch attacks against Iran. Could this be considered a first step by Europe? I know, it sounds like such doom and gloom, and it's something that we really don't want to be facing right now. We don't want to even be thinking about it. But it's no bad thing to prepare for the worst, even though we're hoping for the best. That's what I think. But let's go back to the story. Let's go back to history a little bit. Because when we examine history, these historical stories of empires long ago that have fallen, there is a pattern. Empires rarely collapse because of one enemy strike. So this war with Iran is not the thing that most likely is going to bring America down. Empires weaken through overextension, through fighting costly wars, through internal divisions, and through believing they are immune to decline. So there's a combination of things that always bring them down. In the example with Croesus, he thought he was striking before Persia got too strong. And in the same way, the United States and Israel believe they're striking Iran before Iran gets too strong. But in acting prematurely and maybe even arrogantly, Croesus accelerated his own destruction. So we can ask, are the United States and Israel doing the same thing here? Also, with this war against Iran, are they really neutralizing a threat? Or are they reshaping the global order in ways they cannot control? Just a few days ago, news broke that Joe Kent, who was the director of the National Counterterrorism Center, resigned from his post. We mentioned Joe Kent earlier, and so we're going to talk about him a little bit right now, because he said that he can't in good conscience support the conflict. He said that Iran posed no immediate threat to the United States, and that the war was driven by external political pressure. This resignation is a clear indication of internal divisions. And remember, we said that internal divisions is one of the factors that brings down an empire. And it makes me wonder, who else is going to leave the administration? Who else is going to resign over this matter and come out and say something publicly? Let's go back to Croesus for a little bit. his story shows us something worth thinking about. Again, because the oracle was not wrong, and Croesus was not foolish. It is tempting to use hindsight and say he was a fool. He shouldn't have done what he did. But the truth is, Croesus was a human being like all of us, and he believed power guaranteed success. It's a thing in human nature to believe that when you're powerful, you will always be successful. But as we see, it did not guarantee his success. So we can believe that it will not guarantee success today. And that is a lesson that echoes from ancient Lydia to Washington to Tehran to Tel Aviv. War is rarely as contained as its architects imagine, and the cost is rarely paid by those who authorize it. And so again, we come back to Croesus. We're using the story of Croesus, and we have to talk about him. He was a powerful king, and he was worried about the rising Persian Empire under Cyrus the Great. He went to the Oracle of Delphi looking for certainty. The oracle told him that if he went to war, a great empire would fall. Croesus heard exactly what he wanted to hear. He believed the prophecy favored him, and so he marched to war, confident that destiny was on his side. But history turned the sentence inside out. A great empire did fall, just not the one Croesus expected. History doesn't repeat itself, not exactly, but it often rhymes. Today, the world again watches tensions between the United States and Iran escalate through military strikes, retaliation, and strategic bombings. The justification offered for this war is the same as what Croesus thought. Act today to prevent a greater threat tomorrow. But the lesson that we can learn from Croesus is not that powerful nations are destined to lose. That is not the point of history. The lesson is that arrogance can cloud judgment. Intelligence, prophecy, and predictions are often interpreted through the lens of what we already believe. And leaders, like all of us, are human beings, and we're capable of mistaking confidence for certainty. The United States is a global superpower with immense military capabilities and alliances across the world. But even powerful nations can pay heavy prices when war stretches longer than expected. History has a way of reminding us that the future is never entirely under anyone's command. And that is the warning echoing across all these centuries. Not that an empire must fall, but that when nations move toward war believing they already know the ending, they may discover that history still has a few lines left to be written. And sometimes those are the lines that matter the most. This has been Sometimes and Forever. Thank you so much for watching.